So again, a warm welcome to all of you. My name is Christiane Püker. I'm the director of the German American Center in downtown Stuttgart. That is a cultural and educational institution focusing on the United States and the transatlantic relationships. Tonight's event is part of an 8-part digital event series called Eureka, Ländle Meets California, organized by the German American Center Stuttgart on Baden-Württemberg's state partnership with California. The partner institutes, the other German American centers in Freiburg, Heidelberg, and Tübingen, also contributed to the series with events. A big thank you to all my colleagues. I would also like the State Ministry of Baden-Württemberg for the support of the series. In this May edition of our Eureka series with empowerment through participation, we will take a closer look at the similarities and differences concerning ways to empower newcomers in the partner states Baden-Württemberg and California. In both states, we have been experiencing a high influx of refugees in the past couple of years. Upon their arrival, refugees and other newcomers have to rebuild their lives from the ground up. We are going to ask, what can we do to empower refugees and immigrants in their new communities? The experts of tonight are Cynthia Busa, Sinya Hiss, Mosab Tato, Maria Tramuntani, Karen Trumplin. They will be introduced later on by our moderator, Ayse Özbabacan. Thank you all immensely for joining us for the talk. And thank you so much, Ayse, for, again, cooperating with us here at the DAC. It's always a pleasure working with you. And thank you also for even putting the panel together. Thanks a lot. So let me say a few words about Ms. Özbabacan's professional background. She is Deputy Director of the Department for Integration Policy at the City of Stuttgart. She is responsible for the implementation of the integration policy concept, the Stuttgart Pact for Integration, with a focus on intercultural opening of the city administration, migration and women, persons with special needs, and the development of measures to facilitate the integration of refugees and asylum seekers. Ayse is working with the German Marshall Fund on different projects and the Welcoming America initiative as well. She's also an alumni of the Transatlantic Forum on Migration and Integration, established by the Robert Bosch Foundation and the German Marshall Fund of the United States. And that was in 2008. Before I now hand over to you, Ayse, please let me add that already during the talk, you, our guests, the listeners, can use the Q&A or F&A button to type in questions. And we will try to get to as many questions as possible after the talk, after the panel. This button you can see on your screen at the bottom edge. If you feel more comfortable asking the question in German, you can do so, and we will translate them. Please note that the chat function will be disabled throughout this event, and you will not be able to turn on your mic or your camera. And now, Ayse and dear panelists, the floor is yours. Thank you for coming.
So, thank you very much, Christiane. A warm welcome also from my side to our event, Eureka, Ländle Meets California. Eureka, known as an exclamation of the ancient Greek scholar Archimedes, described as a moment of a sudden discovery and an inspiration. I have found it or I got it. So we will see what inspiration and insights we are going to find in the states, in the sister states, Baden-Württemberg and California tonight, when it comes to the integration and participation of newcomers and refugees. So I'm happy to welcome 5 experts from different governance levels and from civil society, from both sides of the Atlantic, to share their experiences and strategies of how they welcome and empower refugees and immigrants to find a new home. But we are also going to talk about the challenges you are facing in your daily work, and we are going to share our experiences, good practices to learn from each other. This is actually our aim, our goal for tonight's event. Yeah, I would like to start with a short introduction of our panelists. So we have Cynthia Ayse. She is the Executive Director of the California Immigrant Policy Center, which is an immigrant rights organization that advocates for policies that uphold the humanity of immigrants and refugees. Cynthia is an expert on international refugee migration, human rights, and civil rights issues. And currently she serves as State Commissioner with the Milton Marks Little Hoover Commission for State Government Organization and the Economy. So welcome, Cynthia. We have Sinja Ayse. Sinja Ayse works for the Department for Integration Policy of the state capital of the city of Stuttgart as a consultant on immigration law, and she's also part of the team of the Welcome Center Stuttgart, which is a contact service point for newcomers and international professionals, and she's consulting them around living and working in their new home, Stuttgart. And the Welcome Center is an initiative of the city of Stuttgart and the Region Economic Development Corporation. Sinja holds a bachelor's degree in translation studies and a master's degree in interculturality and integration. Yes, and we also have a gentleman with us tonight, and this is Mohammed Mossab Tato. He has recently completed his studies in civil engineering, and he's strongly committed to volunteering. What does this mean? Well, actually, he did a lot in the past 6 years because Mossab had to leave his home country, which is Syria, because of war, and she came to Germany and actually to Stuttgart. He is a founding member of the Syrian Students Association. He is the leader of the support group Network Stuttgart, working on several projects to empower refugees to become and be part of society. And last but not least, he is a member of the International Committee of the City Council Stuttgart, which is an advisory body to the council. Yes, and we have, of course, Maria Tramontani. Maria, congratulations. You have recently gave birth to a beautiful Romanian, Hungarian, Pontian, Greek, German daughter. This was quite long right now, but this shows actually your vocation for transculturality. Maria was born in Stuttgart as the daughter of Greek guest workers. She grew up there, she raised up there, and she studied ethnology in Heidelberg and Malta and completed a master's degree in interculturality and integration. Since 2015, she has worked professionally with young refugees and culturally diverse youth groups, and she's also the founder of the Syrian German Writers and Artists Collective, literally Peace Association. Well, what is she doing in her free time? She's part of a Greek theater group and again, like Mossab, politically active as a member of the International Committee of the City of Stuttgart. Yes, and we have Ms. Karen Tomlin. Karen Tomlin is a nationally recognized impact litigator focusing on immigrants' rights, who successfully litigated numerous cases of national significance, including a challenge to the administration's effort to end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, also known as the DACA program, and the Muslim ban, as well as the constitutional challenge to Arizona's notorious anti-immigrant law. Yes, and Karen, and this is just great, she recently founded the Justice Action Center, which is a new nonprofit that deploys an innovative model combining impact litigation with storytelling to advance justice for immigrant communities. Thank you very much, Karen, to be together with us this evening. Yes, so before we start now with our discussion, I would like to start with a warm up for all speakers and all participants. Please feel free to use the chat function. So when you think of empowerment, what comes to mind first? Just think about it. What comes first to your mind? Maria.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Ayse. Thanks for having me. I think for me, the first thing that comes to mind is the saying of the man and the fish. I think it's quite international. You probably know it in the States as well. Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish and you will feed him for a lifetime. Mosab is nodding, so it's probably in that area of the word as well. So yeah, in very short, this is empowerment for me.
Thank you very much, Maria. Karen.
Yeah, thank you, Ayse. It's nice to be with you. I think what came to mind for me is very similar to Maria, right? It was really about agency, and empowerment for me is the ability to exercise choice over your own life. It is the ability to be able to chart your own path and realize it. When I think about some of the clients that I represent now, I think about the fact that they are restricted from basic things like the ability to travel back home to see a grandparent who is dying, for example. So that's the opposite of empowerment to me, when you don't have that agency and others do.
Sorry, thank you very much. Sinja, what comes to your mind first?
Yeah, well, thank you, and hello from my side as well. Yeah, it's quite interesting what's coming to our mind. I had to think about the speech, the very famous speech of Martin Luther King in 1963, I Have a Dream, because for me, this is a symbol of empowering people to stand up for their rights in a quite diverse society.
Thank you very much, Sinja. Cynthia.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone in the audiences. Thank you for inviting us to this great conversation. As an immigrant, and I started as an organizer in the Philippines. To me, empowerment connotes a combination of things. It's the things you survive. And those things you survive become resilient about. And when you become resilient and you have the courage to make the decisions over your life, as Karen pointed out, is the ability to make choices that are not imposed on us, but from our own will. I think that is to me what empowerment is about.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Mosab.
So hello everyone from my side also. I'm also glad to be here. I agree with Maria. The most important thing is to give the person the power to exist in the society. And the second important thing for me is to believe that each person is individual, and the way to empower the people is different from one group or from one person to other. Yes, this is empowerment.
So thank you very much. We will come back later to what empowerment actually means. Yes, I would like to start with two questions for all of you, for all speakers. So what is the mission and vision of your institution or your initiative you're working on? And my second question would be, how do you empower immigrants to participate and advance in society? So each of you has around about 3 minutes. Who would like to start? Let's start with you, Cynthia.
All right. I guess we're going alphabetical. As you also pointed out earlier, Ayse, the California Immigrant Policy Center is a statewide immigrant rights advocacy organization, and we advocate for policies that uphold the full humanity of immigrants and refugees while trying to advance racial, social, and economic justice. To do this mission, we work at the intersections of health and public benefits. We call it the safety net, to make sure that safety net is really something that includes immigrants and refugees. We also work on immigration enforcement reform, making sure that people are protected from detention and deportation. And I can talk about that a little bit more later, as well as economic justice in order to make sure that we are serving our immigrant integration goals. We don't really see these issues as separate from each other, but they are concentric approaches that feed on each other to make sure that barriers to access for many immigrants and refugees are removed. Our model of engagement is very much rooted in community organizing. We're a very different policy organization in that we just don't create policy from thin air. We make sure that our policy work has real input from our partners on the ground. They have a say on what we say is going to happen at the state level that will have an impact on their lives. It is a hybrid of social movement work where we thread and blend organizing with policy advocacy, and strategic communications, knowing fully well that sometimes how we tell our stories is how we're able to not only gain empathy, but gain support for the work that we do and the lives of the communities that we are working on behalf of. This also means that we are fully utilizing these tools in order to pursue our mission because, as you know, it's been really challenging for many immigrants in the United States to live full, dignified lives given the intractable political issues that has informed policy making in the United States. And again, we can talk about that later because I know that we have a short time for this. I just wanted to point out that because of this model, we've been able to raise for many, many years hundreds of millions of dollars through our state budget advocacy work. And it has helped to create a type of partnership with the state and with the immigrant rights movement in which rights are expanded, opportunities are extended, and many barriers to care and to the safety net in California. I will underscore that because the California model is not something that is already prevalent in most of the United States. But we're hoping that we can continue to create this blueprint that will become something of a model that the United States can look at. So I will stop there. And should I just pass it on to somebody else?
Thank you very much, Cynthia. We will talk about the California model later on. Yes, I would like to go on with Sinia. Sinia, so what is your mission and vision of your institution?
So as a member of the Department for Integration, well, our first mission is just to meet other people as equal partners, to give a face to the different aspects of our society, of our urban society. And by meeting the other, we find something like a common vision on the challenges to face, the perspectives to consider, and as well as on ideas to share. So by meeting the other, we also find ourselves in a new way. And in some ways, we may be challenged to think differently or even to act differently. We are asked to be creative. So often you'd need to start something new that's uncommon, unknown, or unusual. And we in Stuttgart, for example, started welcoming newcomers in a welcome center in 2015, which was the same year when the warlike clashes in Syria increased. And for us in Stuttgart, this has been something new, a different style of welcoming. something that you in the US have done long before us. So yes, Stuttgart is a very international and diverse city, and it's the home of about 4,500 refugees. So there are a lot of opportunities to meet, to cooperate, and to empower each other. And yeah, this is our mission. So how do we do that exactly? As mentioned before, the city of Stuttgart has an overall integration strategy. It's the Stuttgart Pact for Integration, which was established 20 years ago now in 2001. And in this pact, we defined that we want to achieve, of course, equal opportunities for any member of our society. We want to have a cultural diversity being implemented as a positive resource. And we'd like to achieve these goals by cooperating with many partners in administration, politics, businesses, civil societies, and NGOs. So our fields of actions are many. And for example, we work on cultural diversity, we work on language learning. For example, at the Welcome Center, we give an overview about the many opportunities and possibilities to learn the language. We'd like to work on public awareness on the migration topic, and we'd like to achieve more naturalization so that more foreigners become Germans. We'd like to achieve intercultural orientation, and last but not least, pave the way to professional life for newcomers. We have established, for example, mentoring projects in our city. And the Welcome Center has this cooperation with the Stuttgart Regional Economic Development Corporation to support newcomers to find good work. So apart from living in Stuttgart, they also should be able to find a good working place. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Cynthia. So Cynthia talked about the California model. You talked about the Stuttgart model, the Stuttgart Pact for integration, and we'll talk about it later. So yes, we go on with Maria. Maria, what is the mission and vision of your initiative?
As you said earlier, I am a member of the International Committee of the City of Stuttgart. I'm a so-called expert member. We are a group that consults the elected council of the city of Stuttgart on migration, inclusion, also empowerment, of course. We voice our opinions, but we also have a vote, which is very important to me because it means we are part of the decisions taken in the city of Stuttgart. We are a quite diverse group of people in age, in backgrounds. We all work or volunteer in the field of migration in some way. We have immigrants, of course, like as mentioned, my colleague Mossab Tato, who is here as well, and also children and grandchildren of immigrants, just like myself. I think empowerment starts right here by having people who have experienced migration having a say, and also, calling them experts. I think there's nothing more empowering than that, and that's why I think this group is very important, also for the city and the politics here.
Thank you very much, Maria. Empowerment starts right here. Karen, we go on with you.
Great, thank you so much. This is so wonderful to hear about everyone's initiatives. So at the Justice Action Center, we're a new nonprofit, and our focus is on the courts and storytelling. And the reason for that is we believe that the courts play a very special role in the development of social justice or rights in the United States. But we also think that courtroom wins are not enough, because if you have a courtroom win, but it isn't combined with a change in public opinion or perception, you're going to lose that win. and you're going to be set up to have to bring the same kind of lawsuit years later. And so we have a different model of how we are bringing cases, and it's a combination of storytelling. I hope that it goes to empowerment. Our model, we like to think of, we're moving away from a survival model to one that creates wholeness. And I'll explain a little bit what I mean. If you have a survival model for the work that you're doing on immigration, especially in the courtroom, you're just trying to keep your head above water and stop the bad thing that happened. You're trying to end the Muslim ban that targets a group of people for their religion. But that's not wholeness. That isn't thriving. That's not empowerment that we're talking about. And so we're changing our model, both of what we're trying to achieve in court, from it isn't enough to just survive and to stop the discriminatory policy. What do our clients need? What do our community need to be made whole and to be treated whole, so that they're seen that the courts are theirs too, and the courts are not the domain only of white Americans. And the last thing I'll say is, because I think this helps people think about it, and it goes to one of the questions we got in the Q&A, which is, what's wrong? Why aren't we changing public opinion? Well, we've borrowed this model of the difference between survival and moving to transformational wholeness, really from our experiences with terminal illness. So, for example, we use a metaphor about dealing with cancer. And that's because if you're dealing with our deputy director is a survivor of cancer recently. And in pandemic times, you get to do strange things with your friends. And so I would join her on video calls with her doctors, because when you have a life-threatening illness, it's hard to understand all the facts coming to you. And after multiple surgeries and chemotherapy, she finally got to see a plastic surgeon. And he said to her, every other doctor you've seen, their job is to keep you alive. My job is to make you whole. And we thought to ourselves, this is the metaphor we're struggling for. We set up too much a win and loss. Whose policy won? Whose policy is lost? Whose courtroom fight won? Who lost? But that's a false dichotomy. And it doesn't, you can win your fight with cancer, but be so devastated by the effects of your treatment that you're no longer whole. And so we've borrowed that model to say, in our work, how do we make sure we're not just surviving, but we're promoting thriving of our communities? So that's what I would share.
Thank you so much, Karen. So empowering is storytelling. Yes, storytelling. Mossa, I have told your story, well, a little bit of your story. So you have now heard from your colleagues what they are doing, which policies they are working on to promote integration, participation, and especially to empower refugees and immigrants. So what do you think about these policies, and what is actually your mission and vision as someone who has a different story in this roundtable today?
Thank you, Ayse. I have heard many great ideas and stories from my colleagues. I think each idea is correct in a special way, and we need all of it. So, as the head of Support Group Network, first, Support Group Network is an umbrella organization and initiative of many initiatives in refugee fields. We try to, our work is based on the deep belief that the best way to empower refugees and to support them is to teach them how to do their stuff by themselves, not to help them and do it for them. And our main themes, our main projects is to support the initiatives. so the refugees are able to make the decision in the society and improve themselves in this society. And we try to empower the weakened will, we can say, the people who's suffered from many things and cannot be supported from the system and the projects of a state or organization. So we are trying to fill in the gaps in this works. Our main or special fields are to empower women who are suffering from different problems, and support the families in the new society, and youth, especially in the education field. And in this year, our main goal is to support and empower refugees, or as we like to say, safe seekers, to participate in the politic in the new society in Germany, and support the talents in the refugee or safe seekers society, so they are able to change the picture of a refugee in the society. Through media and news, we hear we have just this vision from refugee or safe seekers that they are weak, they need help the whole time, or they are bad people. And I can say that both of them is wrong. At the first time, it was right. They needed help, and it was great that they become this support from many organizations and from the state. But now they are part of this society, and they are able to improve themselves and take a part of the society. So this is our main goal in this time, and we are trying to do this.
So thank you very much, Mossab. This is again also storytelling, to give a different picture than we know from the media. So we'll talk about it as well later on. Yes, I would like to come to the next round of questions. So we have talked about the different initiatives and measures and good practices. But what are actually the challenges you are struggling in your daily work? You have touched upon it, but I would like to ask again. So, what are these main challenges in your daily work you are struggling with? Also, which makes it really difficult to implement the measures and policies you have developed. When I think of the California model or the Stuttgart Pact for Integration, or Karen, your work. So what are you actually struggling with daily? Maybe we start with you again, Cynthia. How can we actually assure the access to federally funded healthcare, regardless of people's immigration status, because the access to healthcare is a very significant issue for many people. And how can we take action to advocate access to healthcare for all Californians now in your case?
Thank you, Ayse. Before I expound on that, I want to frame the immigration issue in California and the United States, and they're this very, very big challenge, which is for many years, since the last comprehensive immigration reform policy was enacted in 1986, the United States, has not managed to come together on a complete and comprehensive solution on the challenges of immigration and immigrants in America. It has played political football with the issue for a long time. And that's why you find organizations like us and organizations like Karen still troubleshooting very singular issues around immigrant lives, because we don't have this root cause and comprehensive solution. And that's what is what frames the work that we do at CIPC in California. You know, the way that we work on access to healthcare is a long, drawn out campaign. You know, it didn't take us overnight to provide much needed care for undocumented immigrants in the state. And I want to say that when we talk about immigrants in the United States and in California, we're always talking about a very complex population. And CIPC, because of our mandate, our focus is on the most excluded of immigrant and refugee populations in the state, and that's the undocumented immigrants. And the campaigns that we have undertaken exist at the backdrop of the following challenges: their exclusion because of lack of status, the inequality and racial justice challenges in the United States, which, as you know, is very live to this day. As I already said, the enduring political stalemate on immigration, the absence of an infrastructure that meets their needs, as well as looking at the transnational solutions, which I hope we can begin to look at in this conversation, which looks at the root causes of why immigrants flee in the first place, and the challenges that receiving countries face when this whole set of frameworks and issues is not fully understood. Why healthcare? You know, in the last 4.5 years under Trump, what the administration tried to do is take every single thing that immigrants have marginally enjoyed in terms of their rights and opportunities. And we knew that it was crucial that immigrants at least manage to have some access to the safety net, because lack of healthcare, you know, a relative being sick can lead to a domino effect in their lives. It can lead to homelessness. It can lead to bankruptcy. It can lead to not being able to afford food. So while we know that these comprehensive and concentric solutions must exist, we also were realistic enough that we can't do everything at once. So looking at healthcare, which is already a 5-year project called Health for All. You know, the campaign that CIPC has been running is called Health for All, and which started with making sure that undocumented children have access to life-saving care. I'm very, very happy to share with you that now we've actually won another victory in the California state budget by the inclusion of undocumented seniors. We work really hard to make sure that this population gets access to healthcare, because many of them were unable to access healthcare during the pandemic. Still, many immigrants are unable to access healthcare during this public health crisis. But the sense of urgency that older populations has had to experience because of just their vulnerabilities made this campaign particularly critical at this time. You know, the lack of healthcare access, I want to point out, has placed undocumented populations in one of the most vulnerable situations in their community, because they were afraid to go to hospitals, tell their employers that they were sick in case they would lose their jobs. And so we knew that there was a real sense of urgency in making sure that we begin to chip away at some of these barriers to make sure that, true to our mission and true to our aspiration, we can restore the humanity and dignity of immigrants. It's all about that. You know, policies of exclusion strip many people of their humanity. And that's what we're asking, is like, just let's come together to recognize that many people will not be in this situation if they had a choice. You know, connecting empowerment to political participation, to political advocacy and activism, they're all connected to each other, because without doing this work, we're leaving whole populations at the mercy of elements that does not care about their future or whether they survive. So healthcare is just the beginning. We've done many other things that we can share. I can share later, but it took a long time for us to get here. California was not always the friendly state to immigrants that is calling itself now. But it shows that it can be done if we do the right thing by our communities.
Thank you very much, Cynthia, to talk about this issue, because health, as you said, is the beginning for everything. If you are healthy, if you have the access to healthcare, you're able to work, you're able to go to school, you're able to do everything, and you're able to really be part of the society and contribute to the society. And if there is no health access to healthcare, it will not work. So thank you very much also for all your efforts. Yes, I would like to move on to Cynthia. Cynthia says, well, healthcare is a very important issue, but also language is an important issue for newcomers, and especially if you come to Germany. So my question would be, would it be easier for newcomers and refugees if authorities would provide language information in their own mother tongues, so that they actually wouldn't need English or German stuff to support them? And how important are, well, actually next to a language, how important are housing and job opportunities for the integration empowerment of refugees?
Yeah, thanks for the questions, Ayse. Yeah. Giving information on the mother tongue is a very, very important topic. And for me, this includes giving information via one-by-one consulting, as we do in the Welcome Center, for example, but as well via online presence, for example, which is quite important as well in these days. In my opinion, too many municipal websites or informant papers are still written only in German, because there's this administrative culture of the official language is German. And yes, it is indeed. And people need to learn German, for example, to enter the labor market. But before getting to know a culture, you need to understand its do's and don'ts. And before speaking a language, you need to get an insight in the world where the language is spoken. So for me, yes, there's a lack of closing the gap between understanding and applying information. And just to give you an insight, in the Welcome Center, we speak about 10 languages in the consultation. And our experience is not that newcomers don't want to learn the official language, but newcomers may be informed and appreciated first in their spoken language to get access to the resource they need to become part of our society. So yeah, it's a big issue. And yeah, housing as well is a very, very important topic. You know, in Germany or in Baden-Württemberg, in the first years after applying for asylum, refugees live in collective apartments spread around the city. And this decentralized accommodation prevents segregation and, of course, promotes integration. But eventually, the decision over the application is taken, and people wish, of course, to live in an apartment by their own. And this is normally where the trouble starts. Just to give you an example, in 2019, only 20% of all refugees in Stuttgart were living in private housing. So unfortunately, the situation on the housing market in Stuttgart is extremely tense, and the rental prices are very high. And normally you find only a good apartment by having good friends or private connections. So this is an unsatisfying situation for any person living in this area. But just to give a positive light on it as well. On the other hand, there are good chances for great job opportunities in the city. That's because many people want to live here, because our city is shaped by a strong economic power due to companies as Daimler, Porsche, Bosch. The Corona crisis and the necessary transformation of the production sector to sustainable technologies naturally have a major effect on the current employment opportunities. But still, the employment rate of refugees in Stuttgart is slightly above the national average. So, that's just an insight.
So thank you very much. So you pointed out how important language is, to learn a new language when you come to a new country. But of course, housing and job opportunities, because if you don't have a job, you can't be part of a society, and you can't actually afford to rent an apartment and to have an income. Actually, thank you so much. Yes, Mossab. You talked about the support group Stuttgart already, and I would like to ask you if we have a lot of volunteer people who are interested in how they can support and help refugees upon their arrival in their cities. So, do you think that initiatives like the support group refugees or funding programs for empowerment projects are a good example to be implemented in the cities?
Yes, I think that our work the work of the state in Stuttgart is a good example for many other cities. So we see here that in a short time there is many initiatives from refugee for refugee, or from safe seekers to for safe seekers, and you can feel that the refugee have this feeling that they are able to change something in their lives. They are able to make decisions and to be a part of the society. So I think that the example of Stuttgart is really bright, and there is also many messages and emails from other cities around Stuttgart who's really telling us that they are impressed of our work, and they want really to have something similar to our work in their cities. Otherwise, there is also some problems and challenges we face in our work. There is many, but I will talk about one thing which is important for us as a support group network is that to change the image of safe seekers in the society. So as I said, the refugees or safe seekers have been seen as the weaker people, or the people who are not able to do anything for themselves, or as enemy from small part of the society. But I will talk about the first part. This idea, or this picture of refugee, take refugee to an idea, or to think that they are not able to do anything in the society. So they can't speak. The other people speak about them, and on the other side, also in the German society, they see refugee in many cases as a load on the society. So the great challenge is to change this idea in both societies. So in the refugee society also, and also in the German society. And I think on this point, we have to focus in Stuttgart to change it and to make refugee able to more participate in the society and in the politics of Stuttgart and Baden-Württemberg in general.
Thank you very much, Masab. It's very important because we are always saying that people who had to flee the war in their home countries need much time to recover. They need a helping hand, to move forward. But sometimes you have to give this hand. Of course, you have to support the newcomers. But as you said, you have to give them the chance, to change something in their current lives. And they have their talents, they have their competences, they bring with them a lot of resources. And the new society has to use these resources. Otherwise, we will lose these great resources and competences. So thank you very much. Maria, I would like to go on with you. Well, we have now talked about the different issues which are at stake, the different challenges, and you are the founding member of the Syrian German Writers and Artists Collective Literary Peace Association. My first question is: was it easy to establish such an association, and why is art? Art is now not language or healthcare or something else. Why is art a great medium to empower culturally diverse people, and especially teenagers you are working with?
Yeah, I know this is not where you are going, but normally when people ask me about our challenges, they want to hear about cultural differences, cultural misunderstandings, punctuality, stuff like that. And I don't like to talk about that because I do not believe in cultural differences. I believe in personal differences. Everyone who has worked with volunteers, I've worked with many volunteers, I've been a volunteer. Everyone who works with people knows that people are different, and that can be challenging. So there have been challenges, many challenges, also with punctuality, to be honest, but not because of culture. So art as a medium to empower, I think art is a great medium in general. And to empower, I think it's great because, first of all, it's global. You don't have to explain art to anyone. Everyone knows what it is all over the world. You create something, you have the courage to present it to an audience, you get appreciated for it, and you walk taller. So there is empowerment in this. You can be seen as what you want to be seen as. You're not a war victim or a refugee, you're an artist. And even more, you're an individual. You're not that group of people that they talk about in the news, as Masab said earlier. Yes, and in no time you can go from art to cultural participation, to political participation, which is what we do in literary peace. We're apolitical. We don't want to be part of any party, but of course what we do is political. Those issues, art and politics, are easily combined. I think that's the power of art.
The power of art to change sometimes everything. Thank you very much, Maria. Karen, you talked about the Justice Action Center, and you also talked about some successes, but are there other successes you could share with us? And what other support is needed to move on your work in future?
Sure. I just wanted to start by picking up on what Maria was just talking about. I found that so inspiring in talking about art and how it allows individuals to really show who they are. Just appreciate that so much. I will share that we are starting an artist collaboration also that we're calling Justice is Beautiful. And that'll be launching on Friday with our first artist. And each of the artists are either immigrants themselves or children of immigrants, but we also are finding that we need new ways of connecting on this issue that allows creativity and individuals to really shine. So I love what you said, Maria. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Okay, successes and challenges. So Justice Action Center is only 2 years old. And we started at the end of our former President Trump's time. And the one other success I want to talk about is we found ourselves in the situation with only 2 employees, where we brought a lawsuit against a policy that President Trump had to bar over 500,000 lawful permanent residents from coming to the US. It was a little overwhelming, but we took on the lawsuit because no one else would. It was a policy change that Trump said, because of COVID-19, we can't allow any legal immigration. So the major way to come to the United States is on what's called a green card. And you qualify either based on family ties, employment, or you win the diversity visa lottery. And those are the 3 routes to what we call permanent status, which is a very protected route. And Trump ended all of it. And he said it was because of COVID, which made no sense. He said specifically because the legal immigrants would take jobs of displaced US-born workers, which has no basis in economic fact. There are, in fact, economic checks in the immigration system already. And frankly, it was causing problems with getting back to work, right? In instances of family immigration, we were getting phone calls from US citizen doctors who were desperately waiting for their parents who had been in line for 20 years to get a green card so that they could come take care of their kids and the doctors could go back to the emergency rooms. It was absurd. And luckily we won ultimately, and were able to ensure that those 500,000 visas were able to be put back in place. But it was painful. And because storytelling is what we do, I will tell you a brief story. One of our clients' name was Carmen, and she is a lawful permanent resident, and her husband, she was in the process of immigrating him from the Dominican Republic. And she found out that she was pregnant with their first child. And after she found that out, she reported it to US immigration authorities. And this is right before the pandemic in February. And they said, oh my, we have to process this quickly so your husband can be here for your pregnancy and birth. But then this ban came down, and not only was he not allowed to come, by the time he met his son, the son was 10 months old. And I say that because you have to ask, and this gets to the challenge, how long is too long to wait when it's family separation? And those moments, we cried. We were so happy when he came to the airport and met his son, but you can never get those moments back. And so that's really what we're looking for, is the dignity. So Ayse asked about challenges, and someone in the chat said, don't you ever just get mad? And I do. I get mad when Carmen didn't have her husband with her, right? For all those important moments, and that he lost that time with his first child. Our challenge right now is how even our new president, President Biden, who I do admire and who is much friendlier and open-minded towards immigration, is still using the pandemic as an excuse to keep our borders closed. And here I'm talking about our land borders primarily, but also by air, and the failure for the United States to return to our obligation to welcome refugees and asylum seekers. And it's really happening on both fronts. And the biggest challenge we're facing is the lack of any justification of why the pandemic should be prohibiting us from fulfilling our duty to allow those fleeing persecution to safely go through an orderly process to seek their right to asylum or refugee status in the United States. And, I want to be clear, the United States, our borders are not closed, right? They never were. They're open to lawful permanent residents. They're open to US citizens. And we have certain quarantine and COVID restrictions. That does the trick. It did the trick earlier in the pandemic. And certainly now when the United States is in such a privileged position with our vaccinations, we have a responsibility to reopen. And that is the biggest struggle that we're facing today. Thank you, Ayse.
So thank you, Karen. Yes, we have the responsibility, especially now during the pandemic. And I would like to ask you, we actually talked about it somehow, but how has the current pandemic shifted the needs of newcomers in the US and in Germany? So do you have any ideas? Cynthia?
Yes, I'll start. One of the biggest lessons that we've learned in the last 4.5 years under Trump in the pandemic is the fact that the systems under which we were working under did not work. They no longer work and they have to change, primarily because the populations of immigrants and people of color that we work with died the most, got sick the most, lost their jobs the most, lost their homes the most, and are going to struggle with jobs that will not come back. So that it's a major shift. And what we're really hoping that we could push for, not just in California, but in the country, as Karen underscored, we have a great opportunity, no matter how devastating and painful the ravages of the pandemic and the political crisis we live through in the United States, we have a great opportunity to learn from this and make a complete break with the past and the systems that existed there that did not work. Because if they did, we will not find our communities here where we are, where our lives have been destroyed, right? So I want to say that very, very vocally and clearly, because nothing else will do. We can't go back to the way things were because they did not work for our communities. It may sound, it may sound simplistic as I say it, right? Of course, it's not easy to do systems change, but that is the only thing that will really do. So we have to look at it from all angles, right? We want to move from a place of thinking around scarcity to generosity, because we can actually afford it. We found out that California has more than $100 billion in its coffers. $76 billion of it is just the state surplus. That can do a lot of good things to undo the damage of the pandemic. We know now what we didn't know before, and wasting that knowledge isn't going to help any of us. So many ways, right? Like, how can we look at the future of work and what jobs can people reskill in? If there are jobs that have been lost, is there a way for us to use our workforce development systems to take a look at what are the jobs that need retraining, what populations are going to need that support? We now know that not everybody in this state of Silicon Valley actually have technology. Many children could not study from their homes. Many mothers could not support their kids while working and teaching their children at home because they did not have regular access to Wi-Fi. So these are just some of the stark realities that have been spotlighted by the pandemic. And we're right now as an organization hard at work at looking at how can we really together with our partners, create this new place of transformation and aspiration to de-silo how we look at the lives of immigrants. Immigrants do not live single issue lives. I eat, I need healthcare, I need access to legal representation, I need access to a house that will not burn down due to wildfires and will render me homeless again. I need access to jobs that will help me keep my family sheltered and fed. These are all issues that we need to look at together in its entirety. As was pointed out earlier, what is the whole approach? So that we are not breaking it down as though we can dispense with healthcare later while we eat. So that's the we know it's been there before. The lives of immigrants in the United States was already hard before Trump. It was already hard before the pandemic. And it became harder because of the combination of these factors. And that knowledge is so important to keep and learn from so that we can break things down and know what to really do. To just, I don't know that we can fully end the suffering of populations that move. We carry with us as an immigrant. I carry with me everything that I have experienced in my life as a survivor, as a woman of color. But we can make it better. I think at the end of the day, immigrants are just asking us, share with us what you have. Where we work for it. In California, immigrants contribute billions of dollars to its economy. It's not only something that they deserve, it's just something that's right. And I think that's really where this is the foundation of what we want to do here. There's no other time to do it, because if we don't learn the lessons of our political upheavals and this pandemic, it will be tragic. I just have to say that. And I'm not only saying this as an Asian, as a Californian, as an immigrant, I'm saying this as a citizen of the world to you, our partners there, and your audiences. Let's not waste this great opportunity to really change the way things ought to be.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. As you said, it's time to share and it's time to make it better. Sinja, how is it in Germany? Would you like to share your experiences?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Cynthia. It's so great to feel your energy because I think that for us in Germany, the crisis led to kind of the same consequences for immigrants and newcomers. And as you said it, we can see it as a spotlight focusing on the problems that already existed. And so just to give you a few ideas on it, for us as well, we experienced that many newcomers, that could be refugees or high-skilled people, as well as family members, have worked on short time or lost their jobs during the pandemic. And especially for people coming from countries of asylum, the risk of becoming unemployed in 2020 was 3 times as high as for people without a migration background in Germany. And one reason could be that refugees are more likely to be in insecure employment, and more often they work with fixed-term contracts, and particularly often in agency work. So all of this may come to the consequence that, of course, you would lose first the job. And additionally, in most cases, they didn't have the opportunity to work from home. So therefore, they were or are still in risk of physical and mental diseases, something that wouldn't stop if we don't fight against the system that they are working in. And what comes next is that in the long term, we had failed language courses or training. So the job opportunities of refugees could be smaller in the long term as well. The favorable course of integration that we had in the last few years has been clearly set back by the pandemic. I think that's what you need to say. And in addition, and that's what matters most to me, is that the discrimination rate against migrants has increased in the last couple of months. We have like an annual report of the Federal Anti-Discrimination Agency, and there it shows that the requests and complaints received by the agency rose by 78% in the last couple of months. So this is a pretty strong increase, and there's still a lot to do. And I think empowering people may be even more important than before. So thanks for the energy. And we also like to shift that system here as well.
Thank you very much, Sinja. So it's now 8:10, and we also have some questions in the chat, and I would like to read some of them. So there is one for Mossab. Mossab, what support do you wish you had when you came to Stuttgart? What do you think could have been better, or what do you think was the toughest experience for you here? So maybe in 2 or 3 sentences, can you respond to that?
Yes, as I said at the first, what I wished as I come here to teach me how I do the stuff, not to do it for me. So I tried to make big steps, and I have done it. So the system where I was in was not able to support me. So like after a few months, I was able to join the university, and I was one of the first who did that. So I didn't. I wasn't be able to become the support from the system because I was not like I was not on the plan of welcoming refugees here. And as I said, that also the toughest experience was to do it with German bureaucracy. It was not that easy. I had many problems with that, and I had to do it by myself because earlier somebody did it for me, and now I have to do it by myself, and nobody teach me how to do it. So it was really tough back there.
So thank you very much, Mossab. You said in the past, people did it for me, they supported me, and now I support them. Thank you so much. So there is another question. There is a phenomenon, I think, in the US as well as in Germany, that areas that have low numbers of immigrants actually vote more for parties like the AfD in Germany than areas that have a high number of immigrants, like, for example, in Stuttgart. Where do you think does this come from? Is it because of a lack of communication, or is it because of fear created by the media? So who wants to respond to this question? So this could be also a question for the friends in California.
I can start. I think it's an important question and observation. And what I think it boils down to is if people cannot see themselves in the issue of immigration, then they might be afraid of it. They might feel against it. They might think it's a horrible problem that can't be solved. And so one of the things you may have read about that is happening in the United States right now, and particularly in California, is because of our land borders being closed, we have had a large number of arrivals of children coming alone. It has to do with our land borders. It has to do with the situation in Central America. And we've had really different responses, right? We've had governors and mayors of non-border states saying, we don't want those kids. We won't take them if the government tries to send them here. And then we've had in California, when the children are coming in, we've had lines of Californians cheering on the buses as the children arrive and saying, "You're welcome here." And what we try to do in our work is to make sure that all people in the United States, whether you live in Idaho or California, whether you, like me, are the daughter of an immigrant or not, can see yourself in our immigration system. And it's easy to do because remember I said our immigration system is family. It's our humanitarian responsibility to let in those fleeing persecution. It's employment. It's diversity. And those things touch everyone. And so what we try to do is to show folks that this issue actually is you. If it isn't you, then your neighbor or your child's teacher came in through immigration, and to address it in that way.
Very much, Karen. And I have one more question. So it's for Sinja. So sorry. Sinja, you talked about language. Do you think there is a certain double standard concerning language? For example, vaccine booking pages in Germany are often only in German, English, and French, even though there are so many people who speak Turkish or Arabic. I know of many people who could not get language certificates for Arabic or Turkish.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I mentioned before as well. And I think it has to do a lot with what Karen also told us, because we have a lot of languages and we can see it as a problem or we can see it as an opportunity. So by getting to know our friend who maybe speak Italian and Turkish and whatever, we have maybe a friendship and we appreciate that kind of language diversity. And why don't we appreciate it as well in our bureaucracy? You know, that's what Mossab also told us, that the major obstacle for him was the bureaucracy. So I think that by getting to know the other as a friend and the other language as a possibility, we should also implement it in our little world of Stuttgart or Germany or the US, to see it as an opportunity and as a possibility to connect to each other.
So thank you very much, Sinja, and thank you very much to all the participants for their questions. I think that many of them have been answered during the discussion. So thank you very much, but you're welcome to chat with us. Yes, so maybe a last question. We have now talked about the two sister states and talked about the different empowerment initiatives. So my question, how do these empowerment initiatives differ in California and in Baden-Württemberg? And how can both states, both regions learn from each other? Maybe 2 or 3 sentences briefly. Who wants to start? Maybe Maria?
First of all, I think so we can learn better from each other, we definitely have to travel to California from Stuttgart and have you guys in Stuttgart anytime soon after the pandemic. Yes, I think it's what Mossab said earlier. We have many different approaches to one issue. And I think the more approaches we have, the better we can tackle that issue. And I think this is what we're doing in very different places in California and in Baden-Württemberg. So yeah, that's very briefly for me.
Thank you very much. Mossab?
I agree with Maria. The best way to exchange our experiences to see what have been done in the other region. for us in California and for our colleagues from California in Stuttgart to come and to visit us, or we visit them. But we can also listen to the stories and achievement there. And there is always something. Maybe we think it's little and it's not important, but when you hear it, you find a solution for the problem in your country. So to exchange the experience, to speak with each other is a really good solution for many of our problems.
Thank you very much, Mosta. Cynthia.
I'll cite three quickly. One is I really do think that organizing is so important. Within the context of movement building, organizing communities, organizing each other is key to making sure that we continue on this road to empowerment that we're talking about. I also think that it's important to really have authentic solidarity. Not the solidarity where we just issue statements and support letters and all of that, but solidarity that looks like, how do we share resources as organizations? How do we coordinate and cooperate rather than compete? Because I know that still very much exists in California where we work as an organization. And lastly, I think it's time to relook at the way we look at managing migration or addressing migration, looking at it from a rights-based approach, really, truly, rather than a national security approach, because we know that doesn't really work. So how can we re-examine these approaches that we have been using for a long time and really challenge those, so that maybe we can create a different path forward and lead us to better solutions for these enduring problems around migration that we experience as communities.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. So it's about organizing, and I like you're saying to have an authentic solidarity. So to cooperate and not to compete. Thank you so much. Yes, Cynthia.
Yeah, thank you. Well, what I would like to take home from this evening, or what was really inspiring for me was just to dream big, because for us in Europe, we also have the camps in Moria. We have the situation on the European border, and there are too many people still living in these camps under bad conditions, and maybe sometimes law has to be changed and rights have to be adopted. And for me, in my daily work, I'm explaining the existing law and applying the existing law. But what I take with me from you was also to be creative and to dream big in changing law and adopting it to the current needs we face. And so I think that's something we can work on and put our energy on as well.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. So Karen, what do you take home?
Well, I'm taking home a lot, and I think that's thanks to you, Ayse, for your wonderful facilitation of the discussion. But one thing that's really resonating with me, and I heard it both on the German and the US side, is I think that our approach to immigration and to immigration empowerment is evolving. And I think it's evolving in a way that is really beautiful and powerful, because I hear both my German colleagues and US colleagues taking into account that we need our solutions driven by those who are directly impacted. And that's a shifting of how we problem solve. It's a shifting of our social society sector to really recognize, we need partnerships, we need allies who are not immigrants working in this space, but we have to understand that our solutions are going to be driven by those most impacted because they have most at stake. And as we have evolved and created the access and the space and decision-making realms for our immigrants and refugees to lead, I think that's the secret to transformational success, in my opinion. And so I'm really excited to hear that from all of the speakers.
Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you all for this great discussion and experiences you shared today with us. I take home, a lot of things. I have met great people, powerful, passionate people who make the change. And this is what I want to take home this evening, to make the change. And I hope that we will have another opportunity to come together to share our experiences, maybe in 1 or 2 years. That would be great to see what really has changed in this time. And as Cynthia said, we need an authentic solidarity. We have to cooperate more, not to compete. Thank you to all of you. And storytelling, Karen, thank you so much for the many authentic stories. And I would like to hand over to Christiane. Christiane, what do you take home from today's event? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, all of you. And actually, I take home a lot. I liked, for example, very much the concept of this empowerment. It's not just enabling newcomers to survive, but to enable them to, to regain wholeness. So that, for instance, that was extremely inspiring. Yeah, it's not just, let's say just about to have eaten and to have a shelter, but also to able to be yourself in the beginning foreign surroundings. So that was something I certainly will think about even more after our meeting. And so thank you so much, everybody, Ayse, Cynthia, what's up, Maria, and Karen. And what I wanted to mention, Karen, special thanks to you as you have birthday today. We have already sung a song in the pre-meeting, and now officially I want to wish you again all the best for the upcoming year, and to all of you of course, good health. So in general, thank you very much for sharing your experiences and your best practices when it comes to empowering refugees and immigrants. And what I said, it was really immensely inspiring. And your approaches are certainly very, very sustainable and inclusive ones. So that is very important. I agree. It would be great if we could continue and maybe even come together in person. Hopefully next year, maybe that will be possible, and to have more cooperation, and between us, between Baden-Württemberg and California, that would be really wonderful. I also like to thank, of course, our listeners and questioners for the participation. Also, our colleagues from the cooperating institutes, the State Ministry of Baden-Württemberg for making this possible, the series, and my DAZ colleague Max for the technical support in the background. And let me please add a bit of event publicity. The next event in the series, Eureka, will take place on June 23rd on hashtag Love is Love, LGBTQ+ youth in California and Baden-Württemberg. That's always also a topic concerning empowerment. And please let me add that Thursday this week will be the last occasion to register for our school language courses here at the DAZ. They will start next week. So, and if you in general want to learn more about the DAZ and the institutes and our work, please check out all of our websites. So the last thank you and good wishes goes to all of you. our panelists. Yeah, thank you so much again for joining us tonight, and all the best to you. And have a good day in California. Have a good birthday, Karen. And have a good evening, everybody else here in Germany. So see you hopefully soon.